Hello, all you elite black agents.
I hate you so much.
I'm your greatest host, your papa, Eddie V, and of course I got Corey with me. Um,
Hello.
we had a really good discussion about a latest news story that apparently there are some key developers that had some Nintendo new development kits for um their new console. And it was so good we decided to make this not only our latest expansion pass, but this week's Nintendo Pow Block. Um,
Yeah.
so we hope that you guys check it out and enjoy it. It is a really great conversation.
hmm
Um, to watch and to listen to. Corey, you have anything to say before we? No.
No, I just this upcoming conversation. This is like Ed said, this is going to be episode 354 of Nintendo Pow Block. We originally wanted to do it as an expansion pass and get it out, but we felt like this was a pretty big story, and that we didn't want people to wait 2 weeks to hear it because of just our um, scheduling and how we've kind of recorded expansion passes in advance, and kind of trying to keep everything in order and stuff like that. So it is introduced as an expansion pass, but I assure you it is episode 354. And we are actually recording this intro before after we've just had like an hour and 15-minute discussion on Nintendo's next console. Very excited. So that's
Yes.
all I have to say. Enjoy the episode. Enjoy.
Yes, and we'll see you guys for another episode of Nintendo Power Block. Bye, everybody.
This episode of Nintendo Pow Block is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our family of podcasts, head over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia or search for us on the Patreon app on your smart device. Thanks for helping us build something better.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Nintendo Expansion Pass here on Boss Rush Games. I'm your host and like to excited Eddie V. Joining me is the one, the only bossman himself, Mr. Corey Derrick. Hello, good sir.
Hello, Ed. I know we just recorded an episode on potentials for Switch 2, but here's another one. Also, this one will probably release free for everyone soon-ish because it's important.
Yes, it's another. Now, this is a really next gen Nintendo episode, everybody. Like, this is like really. And I'm going to say this before we get into our topic, Corey, that take this with a grain of salt. This is only rumor. It's very alleged. It's nothing factual. Nintendo has not released any information. But this is just alleged rumor. We haven't seen any pictures, and we don't know what is really going on at this time.
Yeah, let's start from the beginning. So earlier today, there were quite a few outlets, including Video Games Chronicle and Game Informer, and I think IGN released something later in the day. And Game Industry.biz, they've all reported on Nintendo next gen rumors. That some stuff has seemed to have been leaked. Some things seem to have been corroborated with certain certain sources and stuff. So I have the Game Informer and the VGC articles pulled up, but basically they're talking about release dates, and development kits have been given to key partners and key developers to start working on next gen games, and that's very exciting. I mean, we kind of already assumed that because Yves Guillemot of Ubisoft, the CEO of Ubisoft, kind of already mentioned Nintendo's next console when he was talking about the sales of Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope. He said that Nintendo kind of urged them to wait for the next gen console, and they, kind of rushed it out on the Switch and kind of, saw mediocre sales compared to the rest of Nintendo's library, right? And so, and then at the FTC hearing, we kind of heard Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision, mention Nintendo's next console and talking about Call of Duty and, the 10-year plan that Microsoft has in place for putting Call of Duty on Nintendo consoles and that kind of thing. So it's kind of already been out there without it actually being out there. But these articles have kind of given us some more insight of what's happening. And so I don't know how long this episode's going to be. Like I said, this is probably going to go out free to everyone sooner than later because it's important, right? I mean, Nintendo's next console is very important. It's very exciting to hear things about. And so, Ed, this is what we're here to talk about.
Yes, and just to let everybody know, all speculation. Corey, read the first article because VGC, I think they broke it.
Yeah,
first.
that was the first article that I saw was that, and it looks like IGN and Game Informer are citing this article. So I'll read that first, and we're just gonna take it in chunks. And when I stop, we'll kind of figure out what a good stopping point is and kind of talk about that section of the article, and then we'll move ahead. So this is I just want to source it right. So Andy Robinson over at VGC has written this. Sources: Nintendo targets 2024 with next gen console. Key partners have development kits ahead of planned launch, sources tell VGC. Development kits for Nintendo's next console are now with key partner studios with launch plan for next year, sources have told VGC. And that's like the header and the subheader. And this is the actual article. According to multiple people with knowledge of Nintendo's next-gen console plans, the company is likely to release new hardware during the second half of 2024 to ensure that it has ample stock available on day one and to avoid the kind of shortages we've seen with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Although specific details on the console are being kept closely guarded, those VGC spoke to indicated that the next gen console will be able to be used in a portable mode similar to the Nintendo Switch. Stop. We kind of assume this. We kind of, we've speculated this, and in an upcoming episode, we actually kind of talked about if it's not that we think that Nintendo is taking a step backwards because we've kind of talked about that this is a conservative Nintendo. This is kind of a, this isn't the let's try all the tricks in the book to see what works and see what doesn't. And if it doesn't, we'll just put out a new console in 4 years and try again. Right. I think Furukawa and his leadership team are really taking the conservative route. They're not really front and center like Iwata was, right? Doug Bowser's not front and center like Reggie was, right? This is a very business-oriented, conservative Nintendo, and I honestly think they are taking the 3DS to the DS to 3DS approach, where this system is going to be, and again, this is a big thing that we will talk about later. Backwards compatibility isn't confirmed, but this console will likely play Switch games, but the DS can't play 3DS games, but the 3DS can play DS games. That kind of situation. I think that's the model we're looking at, and
kind of like the old school way of backwards compatibility using older media with the newer one that if it gets allowed to use.
Yeah, like the Wii to the Wii U, the GameCube to the Wii, that kind of thing.
Yes.
I also wouldn't be surprised if this next gen console would have Switch in the title, or the console is called Switch. I would not be surprised if it's called Switch 2, Mega Switch, Super Switch, super duper ultra max Switch. I don't know. Insert Capcom upgrade title here, arcade edition.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's where we're going. What do you think, Ed? What do you think about another portable hybrid console?
So I think it's very weird to see how this couldn't be portable. I know you said that it would have been a step back if they didn't make it portable,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember people was just like, I wish Nintendo would go back to a box console. That it only just played on the TV. It had high end graphics. You didn't have these gimmicks and stuff. People really said that that's what Nintendo should go back to. So now to hear people to say like Nintendo can't go back to a traditional box anymore. It's very not
Yeah, but
concerning or anything, but it's very surprising. Just
yeah, but to that point, real quick, to that point,
mm,
you see the success of the Steam Deck and the ROG
yes,
Ally, and you can
yes,
prove that high end graphics and high end frame rates and fast SSDs, NVMe SSDs can
mm,
live in a portable console, right? And
yes,
I think people are seeing the power of those devices in realizing that okay, it might not be an Xbox Series X or a PlayStation 5 in terms of
mm,
power, but it's going to be the rumors going around right now, and we'll get into it in a little bit. They like uh PlayStation 4 Pro, I think, is what people are kind of pointing at.
yeah.
And if you have some sort of SSD in this thing, um, if you have some sort of SSD and it takes SD cards for like, and games aren't exactly designed around the SSD, I think this console will probably float around the same power as something like a Steam Deck, is what I'm guessing.
Well, it's to me, it's not the. I think right now it's not the power thing. It's just the. I guess this is the success of Nintendo Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the things that the Wii U have went through to kind of make the Switch and everything, Nintendo kind of changed people's minds about what gaming could be and how you could go out and really play it. So to hear that Nintendo can go back to the box, but people still want Xbox and PlayStation to stay as boxes, it's just very interesting.
Well,
So I'm glad.
they don't like PlayStation and Xbox don't have the same handheld history that the
What
Switch
you?
does or the Nintendo does,
What
right?
you?
I mean,
What you?
they're not
I think it's
expecting that.
just. I think it's just the success of the Switch and definitely transforming the way that people play, because people just like, I get to take a big game on the go with me. So I think Nintendo was smart to I'm not going to say listening to gamers or anything, but I think watching the sale numbers of, we can do a hybrid system, let's
Mm-hmm.
continue that in our line and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Because now it's going to be, because it's going to be the crazy thing. Once the fan art of what the next console could be come
Oh
out,
God.
oh, trust
I
me,
mean, you're
and
already seeing it though. Like, I mean, there's
I have
already mock-ups
so
of
I
like,
haven't so that's the thing about it. I haven't seen any mock-ups just yet. I think once we start seeing a lot of mock-ups until we see like the real system, it's going to be just, it really is going to be interesting, because I think definitely with Nintendo, once they get their chips and everything, it's going to be okay. You guys got a new system. How sleek it's going to be, because
mm-hmm.
I'm expecting like a DS Lite looking Switch, a Switch Deluxe or anything, or maybe this is the Revolution 2. You know how the Wii was code named Revolution. Maybe this is Revolution 2. We really don't know what it could be. So on the portable thing, I'm glad to know if it is happening, And if Nintendo is smart business wise, they would need to continue the hybrid line. So yes, they need to continue where it is a system that you can play on the TV and you can play it on the go. Because like a lot of people said, I just wish it had more power.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and I think like a PS4 Pro style like power limitation is kind of actually high probably for some sort of handheld device. I would probably say more around a PlayStation 4 base model. But that said, like I mean, we already see what Nintendo can do with a base model
Mm-hmm.
Switch, right? And like what they can get out of that. Imagine if they had something that was like 20 times more powerful, right? I mean,
And that's why I was just like, man, if they could do a 1X, like if they could get that much power even to a 1X, because I just feel like, I don't know, this may be me and
well, I
and
mean,
my thing about Microsoft.
I think that's probably feasible because I mean, the One X is like technically like in a lot of ways more powerful than the Series S. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the Series S just has like other features, uh, but I mean, if you're looking at like straight up power, I think the One X is actually more powerful than the Series S in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
and we talked about what the heck Nintendo could do with power, and we know their graphic styles and everything, but like that Zelda Horizon that you've been asking for, like
Well, I
I
know,
said,
dude. That's the first thing I thought about.
taking that mug on the go, and I'm fine if we could get to 900p or whatever, 1080p on the go, whatever folks want to do. I still think 1440p would be fine if they did it on screen.
I mean, the
I had,
screen, like the handheld mode, doesn't need to be
yeah,
any more than 720p. I mean, that's once you get down to that small. I mean, granted,
yeah,
unless it's like a iPad like 11-inch screen, which they're not going to do,
mhm.
right? Like, I think the screens are going to be the same as those Samsung ones that they use in the OLED, in my personal opinion, and they're just going to get a little bit more out of it. Like, I mean,
You think
you
it's
look at some of these.
a little bit wider? You think they're going to add like a little bit more inches to it?
No,
Probably.
I don't know. I think they're going to be the same screens as the OLED Switch personally, and they're going to design the system around that screen because they bought
That
so
would
many of them. They bought so
that
many
would
of them.
that would be interesting. Write that down. Keep note of that. I
I'm just saying, like I think the console is going to be OLED. They might add some sort of like anti-glare thing to it, right? Like
uh
to make the screen nice and clean and easy to read and stuff like when you're outside or traveling or whatever. Dude, that screen's going to be OLED. It's going to be 720p. It's going to be the same exact screen that's on the Switch. Then they're going to design the console around that. I wouldn't even be surprised if they use the same Joy-Cons. Like, I'm not even kidding. I think this is going to be the least iterative console design wise that Nintendo's ever
mm-hmm.
made. I think it might be a little bit beefier. You know, the dock might, whatever that you use the dock of the console with, like, might have some sort of power in it to beef up the games on TV, right?
Yes.
I think the form factor generally is going to look exactly like the Switch. You know, in terms of like, you know, they're going to have the Joy Cons. They're going to have, maybe they call them something different. Maybe they have better HD rumble. Maybe they have triggers at the bottom, like most, you know, elite controllers have now.
Yeah.
I don't know. They could switch it up. They can do whatever they want. But I really think this console is going to look almost identical to the Switch. I
I
don't know
think
what
it's
they're
gonna
going to
have.
call it.
Right. I think it'll have some design changes. I love the fact that you mentioned the OLED screen.
Mhm. It's got
With
to have
it.
an OLED screen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think even if they did use the same one, I'm fine with it. I,
Well, yeah,
I,
that screen's crispy. It's nice. Like when you get a game
yes.
that actually runs at 720p on the go. Like,
Mm-hmm.
granted, okay, like Xenoblade runs at like 540p, right? And like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was like notorious for having a terrible on-screen whatever. But if you get like that power going, and these games can run natively at 720p on the
Mm-hmm.
go, like you look at something like Mario Kart 8 or um you know, Mario 3D World or Link's Awakening, like those games are crispy on the OLED, man. Those games are amazing looking on the OLED. And so
Yeah.
like with a little bit more power, maybe have some sort of larger I think the console's going to be thicker. I think it's going to be a thick boy, right? It's going to have like 2 or 3 C's on that mug. But like
I, and I think that's fine because I think the form factor nowadays,
mhm,
if it's comfortable to hold, like it may be a big boy, but if it's light and it's just like, am I even holding a console? Like,
mhm,
if I'm holding a Switch Deluxe,
yeah.
I think Nintendo could be the one to do it, and
Yeah.
definitely once it like I said, Corey, they want to go not cheap, but make sure that the chips that they put into the system is going to make them a profit that they're not going
Mhm,
to lose. So if they are reusing things and
mhm,
everything, if that works, that's fine and
yeah.
everything. So, but like I yeah, I think the success of the Switch has proven that we commend both of them. Look, we got a lot of first party games from Nintendo themselves. Like you said, they don't have to split it between handheld and console. Everything is all in one.
Yeah.
Uh
Here's the thing though. All right, so this is actually getting into the next paragraph, and we're talking about the
oh,
OLED screen and stuff, right?
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Um, there have been so there have been sources. Two sources VGC spoke to suggested that the console could launch with an LCD screen instead of the more premium OLED screen, in order to bring costs down, especially considering the increased storage needed for higher fidelity games. The current Switch comes with just 32 gigs of internal memory, while current gen PlayStation and Xbox games are over 100 gigs. Like its predecessor, the new Nintendo console will also accept physical games via a cartridge slot, the source is told. Other details such as backwards compatibility support for Switch games, physical and digital, remains unclear. Nintendo has says it wants to convert as many Switches, 100 million plus user base as possible to the next system, although some third-party publishers are said to have expressed concern that legacy support for Switch games could negatively affect sales of next-gen titles. Um, so yeah, I mean, if they do launch with some sort of LCD screen, I mean that's what the Switch launched with. I
Mm-hmm.
imagine I if they do that instead of an OLED, which I still think they need to launch with an OLED, like even if it's $50 more, I think people would appreciate that, right? Like I think they want to keep this console under 450 or $400, and
Right.
I think they want to hit the $300 mark if they can, or 350 at the most. Just because you can get a Series S right for $300 at MSRP or lower in most cases. Like
Mm-hmm.
I saw on Amazon like a Wario 64 thing today, or maybe yesterday or whatever, that they were going for like $229, like a Series S, and I'm like, geez, man, that's so cheap. That is
I
so
wonder
cheap.
if I wonder if they're trying to get rid of the white ones because the black ones coming
Oh yeah,
in
a hundred
September.
percent, 100%. Like they want to get
Yeah.
rid of those white ones so that 1 terabyte black one can come in, and like Starfield, I mean they're launching it like a week before Starfield comes out, man. Like that
Right.
thing is
That's the new
mhm,
kind of base model of the
yeah,
series consoles.
yeah.
Would be that.
Uh and I think Nintendo should probably remain competitive with that console, right? I mean, 350
Mm-hmm.
bucks versus I mean, if they launch at 350 and the Series S is 350, I mean, that's the competitive thing right there, right? So,
Yes.
I think if they want to keep costs down, like the lowest end Steam Deck is $400, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Nintendo wants to be that expensive. Um
Yes.
so I think they're going to want to hit that $350 mark. And the way to do that, I guess, would to eliminate the OLED screen, which I guess is fine. But man,
But you but you
they're
know
just
what?
gonna just 2 years later they're gonna release an OLED version of this thing.
I feel like they're going to stick with the OLED because it's still making them money. It's still
On the Switch, it's making them money.
oh yeah, but I think if they still go with another OLED, and everything, and I don't know what they decide to do. I think people will still buy it. I don't think it's the components people are thinking about, like the OLED. I think it's just like how is it going to perform and how the games are going to look when they put it on their TV. Or even when they have it on the go. I think the OLED, if it still could bring that crispiness and that color that people like, I don't think gamers are going to be worried about it or anything. I, I'm fine with a 350 price point. You know, if they want to do it, but if it does get to the 399.99 price point, we got to see what it really offers and everything. But if
Yeah.
350 is the base for, I like you said, a PS4 Pro style Switch and power,
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, fine, give that because I think people don't realize what in the long run it's going to be, and outside of Nintendo games, how are the other games are going to look and run on this system? Because you know, what's going to be the first, and this is a personal thing. I don't know about you, Corey, if you're going to agree with me or not. I really think that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be the first backwards compatible game that system get tested with. If it is BC, and if it does like upgrading and the DSL, whatever that mess is,
I
like
mean,
if it
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no! If it like gives it like more of a better frame rate and helps the graphics, like if it does an upgrade like with Series X, and X, when you put in some of the older games, it gives it that oomph. If Nintendo is going to give that oomph to some of that backwards compatible those games and stuff, definitely I feel like Tears of the Kingdom is going to be probably the first. I prefer Breath of the Wild, but I could see what would happen with Tears of the Kingdom, because who's going to get the clicks? Digital Foundry is going to get the clicks because everybody's going to be looking to see how does this run. They're going to see the reporting and if that's going to help people's purchases or not or anything. But like
Yeah.
for the OLED, yeah, I could see them still sticking with the OLED for the system.
I mean, I really hope they do. I mean, look, $50 I know is a lot of money, and that's probably, mostly like going towards one game, when
Mm-hmm.
that thing launches. But man, I think the OLED for $50 more is worth it. And maybe they have multiple SKUs the way that, the Switch does now, or the way that the Steam Deck has, or, even the ROG Ally has two SKUs, right? And I'm just wondering if this will launch with two SKUs or an OLED SKU will come in down the line, which I assume an OLED version would come in down the line.
And and how is this battery life going to be?
Yeah, that's
Like,
the thing too,
is it
is like the OLED screen, like the OLED, I think the OLED would probably eat a lot of that battery life, although they've seemed to manage it well with the Switch. I mean, it's kind of comparable to the launch, or not the launch, but the second iteration. Remember when they revamped it and put a better battery in it?
yeah.
I think it's a little bit lower than that, but I think overall the battery life is, I mean, I've never really had to charge it unless I was like on a road trip or something. So
Yeah.
also it depends on what games you're playing. I mean, if you're playing Box Boy, like, okay, that thing's going to last you 7 hours. But if you're playing like Tears of the Kingdom or Wolfenstein or something like that, it's going to last you like 3, 4.
Right.
So there's that. I'm gonna move on to the rest of this article if you don't have anything else to say about that, because
Oh no. Go ahead.
okay. Nintendo did not immediately respond to VGC's request for comment on this story. Shocker. The Tokyo-based industry consultant Dr. Sirkin Toto told VGC that a 2024 console launch would make sense for Nintendo, since it's projected to see double-digit declines in Switch hardware and software sales this year after it cleared 7 years in the market. I would generally say that looking at Nintendo's financials, it seems clear that it's time for a new piece of hardware in 2024. Hardware is already projected to fall 16.5% year on year in the current fiscal, while the minus for software is expected to be about 15.9%. Another quote: the only way to stop these losses from total totally ballooning next fiscal year is a new device in the second half of 2024. Sounds like a realistic realistic release window to me. All right, so we'll go there. What I have heard for about a year now is that Nintendo was really aiming for a March 2025 release. That's what I have heard. I've talked to some people. You and I have discussed it on and off air, what I kind of heard and what I haven't heard. And it's, I mean, I think the reason why they wouldn't want to release it earlier, yes, their sales are falling, right? I mean, obviously the games this fall, although we're excited for them, aren't like 100%. They're not Zelda. They're not Tears of the Kingdom, right? We're getting a 2D Mario, which is going to be positioned as their tentpole, right? We might get some sort of Pokemon game that's probably positioned right, and then we kind of already know some of the games that are coming early next year, right? Like Detective Pikachu and some other things. I think based on what I know about the Switch's emulation scene, I think security is the biggest reason why they want to push something out next year. I mean, there have been people who have asked me what Switch games are worth playing so they can play them on their Steam Deck or their ROG Ally, because the emulation scene. I mean, we know people who played Metroid Prime or Metroid Dread in 4K and 60 frames a second because they emulated it. Like within a week, that game was emulated to perfection, better than perfection, right? And that sucks, because that game's awesome and deserves to be paid for, along with a lot of other games, a lot of other Switch games. And I actually think security is probably the biggest reason if that comes out earlier than we expect. I think we will probably, I don't think we're going to hear anything about it this holiday, right? Because they want to sell units and they want to sell as many as they can. I would actually predict the spring direct is when we would hear something. Honestly, like the April, April? Well, there's usually in February.
February, I think
that's a little too early.
Yeah, it would jump from February to like E3 to like June, in a sense, because they got to have an indie direct, or if a big game is coming out, sometimes they'll do that focus kind of direct for there, or like Pokemon or something.
I also wonder if they, like you said, like they do on specific games. I also wonder if they would just do a hardware announcement direct, kind of the way that Xbox and PlayStation did, right? Remember the PlayStation 5 reveal, and they did that huge kind of presentation. I wonder if they would do some sort of direct to do that too.
I feel like they might do that commercial kind of thing again, like they did for Switch.
I mean, I think we would see a tease, but I think again, that tease was probably in production while Iwata was still alive and Reggie was still the president, right?
President.
That whole marketing thing was already in place before the new regime got in there. I mean, we ran with an interim president for a year and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Who was it? Who was the interim? Start with an I. Anyways, I think now, like we said, it can serve in Nintendo, and they have such a way of controlling the message. Also, like the way they presented that, nobody was buying Wii U's, so it didn't really matter. People are still buying Switches. They're in a different marketplace now than they were when they announced the Switch. So I think they want to get one more holiday. I thought they were going to try to get 2 more holiday seasons out of this thing, and maybe they still will, right? I mean, I know they want to avoid supply shortages, but you can't really do that. Really, if everybody goes out and buys one, you're going to run out, or scalpers are going to get them, or something to that effect.
Which that's the thing Nintendo is really concerned about, is the scalpers. Scalpers, and they said that they were just like, we want to avoid that whole scalping situation that had to do with PlayStation and Microsoft.
And I wonder if the way they avoid that somewhat is like, how they do like the Nintendo 64 controllers, and you have to have a paid Nintendo Online account to kind of buy them. I wonder if that's how maybe they try to get around some of that somewhat, but also like, retailers are going to want to carry this thing too, right? So maybe like you have to. I mean, the Walmart Plus thing was a thing for a while. The
Yeah.
GameStop Pro membership thing was like you have to have these things to do this, and this. Maybe that's how they try to get around it for somehow. But I actually think like the best way they're going to do it is sell them directly through Nintendo and ship them to you if you have a paid Nintendo subscription.
I would probably go the old school Toys R Us route. You
Yeah.
got to come into the store and pre-reserve and do like have your little
Yeah, but that would eliminate
old
like
school.
I mean they've tried so hard to build their relationships back up with stuff places like Amazon and
Mhm.
places like that only sell online, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how you get around that.
You could. I think you could still do those kind of digital sales through like eBay, Amazon, or whatever, all of that. But I really feel like Nintendo's going to be like Best Buy, Target, Walmart, all you retail stores. We are not doing digital pre-orders. If they want a system, they need to come in.
Mhm.
They literally need to come in because, and I know people want to try to break their neck to go get one, but in order to avoid scalpers, you need to come in and only sell one.
Mhm.
If they come in as a family or some friends trying to buy it, like some retail stores do, they consider you as a whole family and you only can make one purchase.
Mhm.
So if y'all want to come and get one, you need to come in by yourself, get in line. If we have enough to get it, you will get yours. And I say depending on how much they'll be able to have and everything, because I don't know how quickly these custom made chips are going to be for the system. And so I really don't know how much they're going to be able to ship worldwide because
Yeah, but I mean
it
if they've already been in production for a year,
mhm.
I th- I think they're going to have more units than the Switch was available, but I still think they're going to run out.
Oh yeah,
Is my
it's going
opinion.
it's going to be the hot thing
Yeah.
that somebody wants. I think my thing is this because Microsoft is Sony is watching, and the
Mhm.
reason why they're watching, if just like you said, if Nintendo does a gives a heads up and saying we are about to reveal our next console in this next direct on this Wednesday.
Mhm.
Sony's going to try to drop. Sony's going to definitely try to steal that thunder. Microsoft is going
Mhm.
to try to steal that thunder, depending on
Well,
if I think
next
more.
year
Oh, go ahead.
is rumored the PlayStation 4 Pro or PlayStation 5 Pro is supposed to come out next year, right? And so
Mm,
the Slim, quote unquote, is supposed to be announced sometime this year and come out, but then the Pro is supposed to come out next year. So Nintendo will be competing with PlayStation 5 next year,
mm.
technically. And I wonder, like, I still think Microsoft needs to respond with some sort of mid-gen console, even though they said they weren't going to do one, based on the simple fact that people like some developers are saying that the SSD is too slow for them to develop games for now.
Well, did Microsoft saying that not the full power of the Series X has been out, like released
Yeah, I
or
mean,
unlocked or
yeah,
anything?
yeah, but I mean that doesn't the power doesn't have anything to do with the SSD inside though. This
Mm.
SSD is like a standard, not a standard SSD, but it's the PlayStation 5's SSD can kind of adjust its speed depending on what game is being played and loaded and whatever, whereas the
Yeah.
Xbox's SSD cannot do that. It's just kind of like a one
Is
size
this the
fits all
card?
thing,
Yeah.
Um
Where Sony you could change your SSD to
no,
whatever.
that's not what
Really?
that's not what I'm saying. No, I mean you can, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like
Um.
just the way the SSD works is Sony has an adjustable speed
Oh, okay. I
SSD
see.
stand in the console already,
In the
whereas
console. Okay.
Microsoft's is kind of like a one size fits all SSD and tries to use the power that's in the console to brute force its way past games that require either a faster SSD speed or
Mm-hmm.
something of that nature, right? So, I'm almost wondering if there's going to be some sort of a new Xbox, maybe not in 2024, but 2025, like a XL or a Series Y or something.
I think 26
No,
for
well,
some
if
reason.
PlayStation 5 Pro is coming out in 2024, that would put them 2 years behind, and they're already behind.
I think
I think
with
that console's in
Microsoft,
development. I think that console's is in development and actually probably ready to put into production. And as soon as PlayStation 5 announces theirs, Xbox is going to be like, "Yep, we're making one too."
I think that I think Microsoft will be trying to, if the Series X just itself is still slowly selling, I think they're going to try to get it to a point where it sells out and then phase it so they could bring
at some point
Series X Pro or something.
At some point, I think the Series X is going to become the new Series S. And then whatever the mid-gen console is going to be the new premium box, in my opinion. But back to Nintendo real quick.
Yes.
What were we talking about? Oh, 2024. The sales, coming out in 2024, right before a holiday, like September, October. I mean, that probably makes more sense now, right? I mean, my thing was the security and not necessarily the way the Switch is selling. I thought they were really going to try to get 2 more holidays out of this console. But I was wrong, I guess.
I think it's, so now we go back to our previous discussions a while back. Is Metroid Prime 4 going to be a cross-gen game?
Probably.
Or
I think it is.
Or is it going to be?
It depends if the console's backwards compatible or not. And it depends on how the upgrades work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my thing, is like, I mean, remember on Game Boy Color where like the cartridges that could be played on regular Game Boy and Game Boy Color were black, and the cartridges that were Game Boy Color only were green, or like the 3DS games were gray and the DS games were black, and like, you could kind of decipher that way. I wonder if these cartridges are going to be some sort of different color to decipher that way, or like, okay, the new console's cartridges are red, and this because the Switch ones are black. But what about these cross-gen games? Oh, they're gray, and you can play them on both consoles. And I doubt Nintendo's technologically savvy enough to do something like smart delivery the way that Xbox does, but it would be really neat for that game to know what console you're playing on.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that because I think my argument was that it wasn't coming to the next Switch, that it was staying on the old Switch. It wasn't coming to Switch Deluxe. But if they want to end/begin with Switch and Switch Deluxe, now it makes the possibility of Metro Prime 4. Because that right now, I understand Princess Peach next game is kind of the highlight of 2024. Definitely with Luigi's Mansion 2 coming out. If Metroid Prime 4 is the it game, yet the launch game, I could see them. They may not do backwards compatible. They may be like, if you still want the game, are you not able to get the Switch Deluxe version, or you're not able to get a Switch Deluxe, here is the Switch version. But once it comes, now I think I'm fine with this one-time fee of the like extra $10 or whatever Nintendo decides. If Nintendo said, hey, if you're not able to get a Switch Deluxe and you get the $60 version of Metro Prime 4, it's a free upgrade if you have Nintendo Expansion Pass.
Yeah.
We realized that you paid your $50 already per year or whatever for Nintendo Expansion Pass. Bam. Let's upgrade your.
I think people are going to get mad at that people. I mean, people get mad at Sony for charging $10 to upgrade their games.
Mhm.
They're gonna get mad if you keep upgrades behind some sort of subscription model. I don't think they're gonna do that.
But I think that's kind of a fair deal because only reason I'm saying this is because Nintendo Expansion Pass, as everybody know, it's a one-time payment and you just renew that same payment every year. I think I think I'm just saying for Metroid Prime 4 or anything to get that upgrade so people don't have to spend whatever, because I don't know if Nintendo's ready to set a new price point. We don't know yet.
I think we're going to start seeing $70 games from Nintendo. I mean, we kind of already have, right? I mean, Zelda is one. Whatever the next 3D Mario game is definitely going to be $70. I mean, I can't really see Mario RPG or Mario Wonder be $70.
Right. But I think once we see that, who knows? I think because I'm like, they're going to cut off the Switch at some point and everything. And I think they're going to try to. I have a feeling they're going to try to cut the Switch off by the time Switch Deluxe comes.
That's what they did with the Wii U technically, and I think you're gonna see a few Nintendo games trickle out onto the Switch.
Yeah,
like within the next 6 months. It's not going to be drawn out like the 3DS was for like a year and a half, and like. I mean, we saw what happened to Alpha Dream, right? I mean, that game, that studio got shut down because the 3DS remake of one of the Mario Luigi games sold like less than 100,000 copies because people were so enamored with the Switch and they were done with the 3DS.
I think Inside Bounce Castle.
Yeah. So let me read the rest of this real quick, and then we will we'll continue our conversation.
Yeah.
Let's see. Repop's head of games B2B business to business, for those who don't know. Christopher Dring told VGC that a 2024 release date would fit with Nintendo's historical trend of launching hardware mid-cycle compared to PlayStation and Xbox. Quote, the original Switch released over 3 years after PS4 and Xbox One, which would provide an effective move for Nintendo. The second half 2024 release for Switch 2 would be nearly 4 years after the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, so we would see a similar mid-cycle launch for Nintendo. I'd argue that unlike 2017, Microsoft and Sony's consoles still feel relatively new at the moment, particularly due to components for shortages, slowing the rollout in the first 2 years, and software delays, meaning that we have not seen too many titles take advantage of PS5 or Series X. So it's to be seen whether Nintendo will enjoy the same benefit. However, the biggest competitor Nintendo faces is itself. Although its core fans are eager to buy more hardware, its more family-oriented casual fans will need more convincing. What's the next Mario Kart offer that they're currently not getting from the current one, for example? Nintendo has struggled to upgrade players in previous generations, so how it approaches things like digital libraries, the Nintendo account, and even backwards compatibility may prove crucial to the next system getting off to a strong start. If Nintendo doesn't release the Switch's successor closer to Christmas, Dring said he'd expect a deeper launch lineup than what we saw with the first Switch, which arrived earlier in its launch year. Quote, in 2017 spread out its releases with a big game arriving almost every month. By the time the holiday period arrived, the firm had Mario, Zelda, Splatoon, and Mario Kart, plus a number of smaller titles like ARMS and Xenoblade to push the console over a crucial Christmas sales window. If Nintendo opts for a Q4 release next year, I'd expect the company to have multiple games ready to go for launch, which we've kind of talked about already a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In May, Nikkei Asia claimed to have been informed by a source close to Nintendo that work on the company's next console appeared to be going smoothly. Quote, development seems to be progressing well, they said, but a product launch won't happen before spring at the earliest. So that would kind of confirm 2024, late 2024. So I think we are actually coming to the period of Nintendo is releasing and re-releasing like smaller games or remasters or remakes right now, right? In terms of filling out the library. And that's kind of something we talked about earlier on an earlier expansion pass as well, right? Where like,
yes,
the Switch is in its last leg of its life cycle. We might see one or two more big games. I think Mario Wonder is one of those games. I think we might see a big game in the spring, which, but I think we're going to see a lot of remasters, right? I think we have 2 more Zelda games coming. I think we have 2 more Metroid Prime games coming. I would actually suspect that Samus Returns is coming at some point if they're doing 3DS games now, to kind of fill out the year. I think
right.
they are, Nintendo has struggled to upgrade players in previous generations. I think it's going to be a lot harder to move people off the Switch than it was the Wii U. Mostly because probably 90% of the people that own a Switch didn't have a Wii U. But you know what I mean? Like, I think the Switch has such an amazing library, has such it's a great console for families and kids. I actually don't think I mean, I don't know, man. The backwards compatibility is a huge thing.
Oh
That's like
yeah.
a huge selling point for a lot of people, especially Nintendo fans now, man, right? Like, and moving your Nintendo account, are you going to still be subscribed to like Nintendo Switch expansion pass? Are they going to rename it to the new consoles online service? Are you going to be able to access your library through the eShop? Like, is this basically just going to be like, will it look like the upgrade from the Xbox One to the Xbox Series X, where like the dashboard looks the same, the store looks the same? Will there be a sense of familiarity? Will we be able to have new themes? Stuff. I really wonder how this next console is going to go, especially if they don't have a lineup of games at launch.
So one key thing that I think people may be hoping for Nintendo before this new system relaunch or not relaunch or launch is a survey. I know Nintendo really doesn't do surveys, but I
don't do
wonder.
surveys either, so
I know, but I wonder if Nintendo did put out a survey just to get an idea what gamers want or they would love to see, the features and everything. I think people would jump into really doing that survey. It's not confirming anything, but I think people will want to do that survey. And if Nintendo could get stuff, and I think it's going to take a while to roll things out if they do see what people would like, and everything. Of course, the availability of the console will play a part. But what if I'm like, okay, Bluetooth, you guys, it took a while for you to get the Bluetooth, but now we hope to have Bluetooth when it comes out. The backwards compatibility.
I mean, instead of
We
4
hope
years later.
exactly, like the Bluetooth situation with controls and our headphones. We hope that is an issue that is fixed and everything. Your the eShop store, like I hope that it's better and everything. We want themes for our next Switch. Like if I think if gamers let Nintendo know what they want and Nintendo really pay attention, and like you said, they're very conservative. They know the coins that they could get from consumers. You seen the sales of your system, your games, your third party, your accessories, your collector's edition, the indies that come out. I know y'all been paying paying attention to the limited run of like style games that get limited physical. So we know that you've seen people double dip on your special editions of your console. You know that Amiibo's still popular because people are still buying it. You've seen how Ring Fit has done. You've seen how um whatever you take the cardboard stuff from Nintendo, like even the gimmicky stuff and everything, you've seen the success of that, so you know, kind of get an idea where you can start. But if you know, it took you a while to even do files on Switch for digital games and stuff, and with some physical stuff. You know, people like what people were getting in the Wii and Wii U stuff, mostly the and 3DS era. They kind of want those things to come back on this. If they know that they could, if that's going to be coming to it, they may easily get people to buy your next console. You know, outside of the hotness and the graphics and whatever, if you could give them features that people really wanted to see on Switch but they just couldn't get, and those features are very improved, people are going to go and get your system. I'll pay another $350 to get a Switch Deluxe. Oh, I got themes. You started out with 20 themes and everything, and every Friday there's a theme pack for like $5, or if you want the Sega one, it's 99 cents. You know, folks were spending money on 3DS to get things.
Yeah. I'm just I'm really excited. I wonder if it's going to be able to use like your Pro controllers that you've purchased, right? I mean, I wonder if a lot of these things are going to move over at some point, because like I wonder if like even the Pro controllers are going to be the same, right? Like the way that Xbox kind of used the same controller. I mean, they changed it slightly, but like, okay, well, the Switch Pro controllers work on the new console, but the new controllers say, you know, whatever. I mean, it could just be called Nintendo Switch whatever, you know, and everything will just be the same, except this one's more powerful. I mean, I don't know how they would do that. Like Nintendo Switch second generation, maybe they could call it like I still think Nintendo wants to follow the Apple model and is too scared to pull the trigger, where like, okay, we want to have a Nintendo Switch and that's going to be our line of consoles for the next 20 years. And every 5 years or so, we're going to iterate on it. We're going to make it a little bit more powerful. And so like, you know, 10 years down the road, if you have a launch Switch, we don't support that anymore. Right. Or, you know, if we do, it's very limited and you're going to have to upgrade at some point. Right. And like, and that's what Xbox is trying to do now. Right. I mean, it started with the Xbox One theoretically, but like, you know, a lot of the games are cross-gen, but now we're getting to the territory where like, okay, there are games that run on both, but now we're starting to get into the territory where there aren't games that run on both, right? I mean, Halo Infinite was the last like real major game, that and Gears Tactics, really, I guess. And so, and you look at iPad, right? Like all the iPads still look relatively similar, right? I mean, the one that I have right here is like 10 years old. I can't update it anymore. You know, all I can run on here is like Notepad and Safari and like, you know, one or two games that were already installed on here. Like I think Angry Birds is on here, but like, you know what I mean? Like I can't do anything with it, but it still works, right? With the stuff that's on it, but I can't, you know, and I think that's what Nintendo wants to do. I don't know if the game industry is really ready for that kind of iPad/cell phone model where like every 2, 3, 5 years you trade it in for a new one type thing. But it would be really interesting if Nintendo moved that direction, because then everything from like, you know, theoretically everything from Switch on is is backwards compatible, but things, you know, certain things aren't going to work on previous models.
And I think it's going to really depend on the Japanese market compared to the American and Europe market outside of that, because I know I always say that, but you know, Nintendo is a Japanese company. They're going to focus on Japan more before they focus on anywhere else. They're trying to do everything universal. You know, a worldwide release. They're trying to do that. And even if some stuff that needs to be localized game-wise, they'll do it and bring it out later. But for a lot of their releases and stuff, they're trying to do it universal. and everything. And if that model doesn't work in Japan, they're not going to use that model anywhere else. If that model is used in Japan, then we'll see it everywhere else. I'm not mad at that model. I think that is a big possibility, but it really depends on how do we get the system to our Japanese market that's appealing, and can that same marketing be used everywhere else?
Yeah, and I mean, Nintendo's really the last company that takes care of their home country first, right? I mean, we saw Sony literally move all of their PlayStation stuff to Europe, right? And like that's kind of Europe is kind of their home base now. For PlayStation, the PlayStation brand specifically, not Sony, just the PlayStation brand. And so you look at the way, like, not that I've ever been to Japan, but stories and everything have told us, like, Japanese people like to play games on the train. They have a really huge mobile gaming scene over there. Like, consoles don't sell very well over there, and like that's why the 3D. I mean, the 3DS is still selling over there, right? I mean, like you look at console sales, like you can still find 3DSs over there, and people are still buying them by the thousands every month. Like, it's crazy.
Switch is in a couple of months, or depending on how long it goes, it is a possible thing that Switch would hit 30 million sales in Japan alone. That would be the highest console in Japan that has been sold. That's insane.
Yeah.
30 million?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I definitely think Nintendo knows what they're doing. I hope they stick with the hand. I mean, from all intents and purposes, they seem to be sticking with the handheld market. I think, I don't know. I really think this is just going to be a Nintendo Switch. I think it's going to be more powerful than the current one. The name, the whole thing, the thing they have to worry about now is the Wii to Wii U naming convention now, right? Where like they have to figure out how to market this thing, and they have to pick the right name. Yeah. And they have to figure out how to sell that name to people who already own a Switch that aren't the hardcore Nintendo fans. Those are the three things they need to figure out, right? They can't have another Wii U situation where people were so confused that they thought the Wii U was just the tablet, and then it connected to your Wii, and people, like, a lot of people don't even know the Wii U existed. And that's a problem. And they really need to avoid that problem with this new console. I don't care if they call it a Switch. They can do whatever they want. They can call it, I think if they want to keep switching the name, they need to call it like Switch second gen. They can't use the new 3DS model. They can't use the new term. They can't use Switch U. They can't do any of that. They have to.
I think they're moving away from the new kind of logo.
I think if they want to say like second generation or something, I don't have a good enough answer, but they have to do something to say, hey, yes, it looks similar, but it's something completely different. And of course, this is why Nintendo pays their marketing team a lot more money than, I'm sitting here in a room at 11:30 at night talking about this stuff, right? If I was better at that, I would be doing that myself. They have to get the marketing down, and they have to get their message across in a way that's not confusing to the general public.
Yes, I agree, and I think Nintendo is working on that. I think that is sure. a big component. And so the thing about this story was, I know I've been moving my hands like this, like crazy, is that, allegedly there are key partners that have development kits. I could honestly say, I think Square Enix has one. Because there's been, Square Enix has been too big a success for the Nintendo.
Has one what?
Let's just call it Switch Deluxe.
You mean like the Switch development kit?
Development kit, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're a key partner. They said all key partners have it.
but the thing about it is, like, key partners is very, um, you know, EA. I don't think EA is a key partner, but I think WB is a key partner. Like I said, Square Enix is a key partner.
Here's who probably has one right now, right? I'm sure Microsoft probably has one or is in the process of getting one. Microsoft, with how popular Minecraft is and what they're trying to aim to do with Call of Duty and all these other things, right? Crash is very acceptable over there, right? I mean, Microsoft / Activision, Ubisoft, Bandai Namco, probably Koei Tecmo, Sega probably has one.
Sony has one because of
Sony?
MLB.
Oh,
MLB the show.
Maybe. I mean, maybe
that would literally be the only one that I could say it's just because of the show, because of the MLB.
No, I understand. Although that development kit might be with the MLB because they're technically the publishers and they probably might have a separate porting team. Whatever. Anyways, what Japanese companies am I missing? So Sega, Bandai Namco, Tecmo Koei,
Sega, Platinum Games, Capcom will have them. Yeah. I think Goodfield will have one. But I think does Nintendo own Goodfield? I think Nintendo does own Goodfield because Goodfield did a Link's Awakening remake. Konami would have Konami would have one.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at now, right? I mean, so we'll see. I'm sure now that these things are out there, we're gonna be hearing a lot more. I'm excited to learn more. I'm excited to hopefully get one of these in my hands next year.
Who's the porting company? The big porting one that we always talk about.
Panic Button.
Panic Button. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, maybe we'll see. We'll see, right? I mean,
I think Mercury Steam would have to have one. Panic Button, Way Forward would have to have one. Like, Way Forward don't have one soon or yet. I would literally be surprised. Shout out to Way Forward. Love those guys. But we know how close they work with Nintendo on stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, y'all got to have one soon. I don't need to know the details. I don't need to know anything. Keep that on the low hush. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, we could name companies all day. I don't want to keep harping on it, but I think.
But I think for the story that came out when they said key partners, that was the kind of the thing, like who would actually have one. And I think we just ran down the list. I just feel like EA does not have one because I don't feel like they are a key partner. But I feel like WB and everybody else are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
definitely. I know you mentioned Ubisoft, but and definitely Ubisoft needs to have one because they've been very successful on Nintendo also.
Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm at. I don't know if I really have anything else to say about it. I'm very excited. I really hope that Nintendo knows what they're doing with this. Mm-hmm. I hope their marketing goes well, and I mean, it seems like exactly what I was hoping it would be a new portable, a more powerful portable, and that's kind of all I want. So
we shall see. I think when we get more stories like this, definitely with the review, like, I know the date is going to come later. I think now we're just waiting now to see the reveal of the system and its name. Like, if Nintendo decides to go with that. I know we're not going to see it in no time this year, but if they want to go, like, if, let's say for the Summer Direct for next year or E3, if they decide to do it, that we do see Nintendo announce something, or even if they bring Space World back to announce it. Like, if we see some announcement next year, we're coming back, we're going to have a talk and everything. But I think now I'm excited to see what their system is going to be. I want to know who the key partners is because I'm like, I'm not worried about your ports. I'm just like, what are you going to bring to us new?
Mm-hmm.
Because, hey, I'll take some Final Fantasy 16. Y'all can get into running all, or to shoot.
Yeah, I wonder.
Well, I won't say that. Someone bring Tomb Raider, the trilogy, to this new Nintendo Switch. I will pay $60 again.
Gosh, yeah,
with the DLC.
Yeah, well,
and the reason I'm reading, do we finally get a kind of achievement system, but in Nintendo style, or do we get it the same way? Like if you do these things. That's all in itself. We'll talk about that later. Corey, I love this discussion. This was a really good one.
Yeah,
this
is a good one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're gonna wrap it up right there, everybody. For this expression pass, everybody have a great week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games that you're playing. I think we're excited to see what this new Nintendo system could be and what games would come in it and what are the specs. Is it going to be the same OLED? Or is it going to be something different? We don't know. But with that, everybody, we will see you next time on Nintendo Expansion Pass. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support.
Nintendo Pow Block is a product of Boss Rush Media, LLC, and is recorded from our headquarters in Akron, Ohio. The show is hosted by me, Edward Varnell. My co-hosts are Corey Dierig and Cordy Yikes. You can find Corey at I am Corey in HD on Twitter and Instagram, as well as hosting the Boss Rush Podcast and Tower Casuals, the Destiny Podcast. You can find Cordy at Cordy_Yikes on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. You can find me at That Richard Cole on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Nintendo Pow Block on all social media platforms at Pow Block Podcast. You can also follow Boss Rush Media and Boss Rush Network on all major social media platforms. Join the Boss Rush Network Discord and Facebook groups to interact with other friends and fans. Visit bossrush.net for more great content and patreon.com/bossrushmedia to learn how you can support this show. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.